Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. I'm your host, Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bash _ Bo3 Sam, and to our farthest right per usual, of course, is none other than Rex, Shady, Nero, and boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we got a spicy episode. We're ranking the 10 most valuable COD pros. We've all got our list. We haven't seen them, and we're gonna be revealing them to each other and talking through it a little bit. And we're going to be debating some of the guys that, maybe get overlooked once in a while and debating who we'd rather have in Cold War and look back on seasons who had the best years. So it's going to be a spicy episode, I think, overall, not to mention news of the week and some wild things going on there as well. But before any of that, guys, I got to ask, boys, what's going on?
Well, Josh, I woke up today feeling like Bash's newborn child. And I'm just crying away all night and all day, and I'm not getting any sleep, and I'm hungry. But Bash, my dad is right there for me to protect me from all the storms I may encounter in life. And I always know I can trust him to be my anchor. So thank you, Father.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Oh my word.
Sam, how you doing?
Well,
a little tired, I'd imagine,
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
I have 2 new sons now. Who knew?
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought?
So shout out John Shirk for the recommendation. He had the most likes on the tweet. It was to wake up feeling like Bash's newborn child. So I thought to really try and embody that.
Yeah.
Bro, I didn't even see your
10 out of 10.
I didn't even see your tweet about that, so
Mm-hmm.
big ups about that.
Well, I mean,
that was great.
We got a lot to go over today, boys. I mean, it's going to be a wild one. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. You can listen on Spotify. You can watch on YouTube. You can drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can drop a comment on YouTube. And
Bro,
Sam,
that was
today,
the weirdest intro.
do we have a podcast review?
Give me like 20 seconds.
Okay. Well, I might be able to get it.
He's in
still in shock.
Yeah, it's shocking to say the least.
That literally just hit me like right there. I wouldn't have been sure that was.
No reviews this week, so y'all are slacking out there. So drop a review down below, because we'll definitely be reading those reviews, of course, and those 5 stars. We always appreciate it. But obviously, like we said, we got a lot to get into today. So without further ado, I think we can get right into the news of the week.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
News here! News here! Come get your news!
We're
League
innovating.
news this week. Surge announced their official roster.
Yes, they
consisting
did.
of what we already kind of knew was going to be. Pred, Sib are going to be our rookies, and we have Accuracy and Mac
Yeah,
as our
man.
2 veteran players on that Surge squad. With Phoenix, who I think is our first rookie coach, right?
Of everyone announced, yeah.
That wasn't just grandfathered in. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to look at a rookie coach.
Yeah, and
See
then
what
they
that
also
looks
announced
like.
Novus to their team as well. So
Mm-hmm.
they got the whole squad there, boys. What are your thoughts? Rex, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited. And it's weird, but I'm most excited to see the coach, the new coach, this new blood of coach, this new era of coaches, what they're going to start bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And with that squad, it could turn out to be great. It could turn out to be great, or it could turn out to be mediocre, but I don't know. I think they're going to be a dark horse team, to be honest.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys because, let's say this team starts off slow, which I feel like it's fairly reasonable, fairly likely at least that they're going to have a longer time to kind of get acclimated to each other, figure out how to play the game, things like that with newer players like this. I mean, at what point would you feel like you'd need to make a change? Would you be willing to change this roster early, or would you give this thing as much time as possible to work?
I think you got to give it at least 2 events, I would say.
Stage 2 of what last year would have been.
Yeah, if they're going to do the same format, this is a team you definitely want to give time. But at the same time, it's hard because I think different people have different opinions on how teams should work. You know, you have some people who think stick it out in the long run. What maybe you lose 2-3 events. You just never know if you're around the corner for event number 4, you can win. But there's other people who need to see results right now, and they want to change at the first sight of
turmoil.
Them not performing. So
For sure.
but with this new team and the new roster, and then with Pred, coming in for the first time, I don't know. I feel like you got to give it some time.
At least a while. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but I just don't want to see where it's like, first event they don't perform and then they immediately do a roster change. I don't agree with that personally.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
wondering if you have to give it longer than 2.
Mean, what is performing for Surge?
Let's say they're just kind of
better than
bottom
top 4.
3. Let's say they're one of the bottom 3 teams in the league in this situation. Like, at what point would you make a change? Like, after how long of still being a bottom 3 team would you be like, all right, we need to make a change? I think stage 3 for sure, if assuming the schedule is similar to last year, which that's all in debate still at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, assuming it's similar, like, I don't know, it's tough.
It also kind of depends on what, why is it doing so bad? Because it could be some, outside reasons, and not to call like Sib out or anything, but like, why did he not have headshots taken for? I'm here. I don't know.
It is weird. Yeah, it is weird because he was a sub the last 2 years, so like you'd think he would have been there at some point for some sort of photo shoot. Because like, how does he not have a photo? I saw a lot of people talking about that on Twitter. Like, what in the world? That is weird.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, that's just a kind of a weird sign. But obviously we hear all those things about him being a little irresponsible and not taking things as seriously as he should sometimes. So then the debate is whether or not they clash and those things that could go wrong. Again, if everything goes right for this roster, this could be a top 5 team. But like, there's also a lot of ways it could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it really kind of depends on like the dynamic of it all. Like, is everybody going to be there on time? Is everybody like wanting to work together and make it work? Which I feel like going into a new season, it's going to start out stronger, or at least you would think it would. And with players like that,
right? Vibes honestly, will be high before the season. Like they'll be grinding before the season starts for sure.
Yeah. So like honestly, I would say even after the first event, I could see them making a decision of changing something. Yeah.
Like if you just think things, like they're getting smoked in scrims, they come out, they get smoked in stage 1.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of like just quitting on teams early. Like if you see potential in that team to get better and do it, like you keep it. But I think this team, I'm expecting something better than the bottom 3, kind of from the gate.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
And if they're not that, I'm going to be like, well, maybe something went wrong here.
Interesting. What's your best bet? Does this team make a roster change this year? Let's put our bets on it.
Depends if it's going to have similar themes of Cold War.
Bets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say no. I think this team, it depends how ambitious they are, but I think this team is going to do better than they have in the past. And I think they're going to be satisfied with that, hopefully. Maybe the players won't be. But I think they could be a top 8, top 6 team at least.
Yeah, no, I would say I would like this team to stick it out. But I think it depends on how much they're relying on Pred to be that like disgusting.
To be Hydra.
Basically Hydra. And then also too, with accuracy, he's always been that guy that's done his job. But then, you think back to World War II days where he was actually like a pretty dominant
elite player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you wonder if this team experiences Pred as basically the next Hydra, and then accuracy somehow gets back to that form. This could be a very scary team. And this, with Mac doing his thing too, this team could be legit.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me sort of like Glacier teams in the past, where you have like one who's like veteran guy, which are accuracy. Then you have Mac, who's kind of like he's been here a little bit, but he's still kind of fresh. And then you have your 2 rookies to the whole scene. Like accuracy's going to be able to mold all those minds without any like sort of big battling, I guess, in a sense of like ideology.
However, I could see though this team being very similar to Toronto, and that accuracy is methods in the situation where they kind of want to boot accuracy out almost.
And they find a guy from the AM scene that they all liked last year, and they bring him in mid-year. I think that's very possible.
Part of me wants to think that if something does go wrong, accuracy is going to be the scapegoat, and they're gonna boot him
because all the other guys came from the AM scene the last year and a half. Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah, that would be my too early bold prediction.
Not to mention, with their coach, coming from the AM scene as well. That would, I mean, again, odds would also say, last year we saw 10 of the 12 teams make a roster change. So odds would say that they make a roster change at some point this year. Yeah. Unless you think they're a top 2 team, which obviously I don't think any of us would say that. So I would go with they're going to make a roster change. But, again, there is a lot of really interesting storylines that could work here. But if I had to put my money on one guy who would probably be most likely at some point to have a roster change happen to him, it'd probably be accuracy. I agree with you there. So it's actually really interesting. We'll see, man. Obviously, we'll talk a lot more about the Surge moving forward the next few weeks with a lot of these rosters and more getting announced. But they're going to be a fun team to talk about rest this year. I think they have a really interesting competitive team that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch early on in the season. So
for sure. The last thing I'll say about this team is that they are beep, 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 beep.
Oh, some Morse code.
Yeah. All right. What's the translation of that?
I don't know. Find out.
All right.
I hope I did it right.
Where's the Morse code translator?
You actually just cursed at the audience, Sam. So.
Probably did.
Sorry about my word, Sam. That's had to get bleeped out. We had to bleep the bleeps.
Yeah.
Tough, dude.
As we know, Mac and myself officially parted ways. On Shotzzy on stream, he's been streaming a lot more. He shows his TeamSpeak, and there's an OpTic TeamSpeak area on his stream, which kind of leaks that the confirmed OpTic merger roster thing.
He's been talking at least. Ooh,
yeah,
shocker. Again, this is what I was, we were talking about this beforehand, like before we started recording. I'm like, it's just weird how obsessed people are with the leaks about OpTic Empire, as if it's not going to happen. Like, it's obviously going to happen. It just comes down to when they're going to announce it. Like,
with how leaks are nowadays, it's just like it's like almost 90% chance it's probably true.
I know people are just so bad they want to just like see it confirmed though. They're just like they want anything like this needs to be confirmed.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just what's the rush for them though? It's like the game's not out. Like we're in the off season. They're going to create some epic documentary to announce the team. So why wouldn't you do it that way? Because they haven't even put out the last episode of what's their video series called for the end of the season with Formal's retirement and everything. So like, I'd imagine that'll all get announced probably in the same episode. I'd imagine like it's going to be crazy. So I don't know. We'll see what happens moving forward, but it's going to be wild.
Washington Justice, an Overwatch League team based in DC, is in serious talks of buying the energy spot, which was OpTic Chicago, but they would relocate it, but they're going to be buying the spot.
This makes so much sense. It does. This just makes sense, like NRG and another Overwatch team selling to another Overwatch team. It just makes sense.
Yeah. There's actually 2 teams apparently in the article said there's 2 teams, one of them being the Washington Justice that are trying to buy that spot. But it looks like Washington Justice kind of has the edge in the whole negotiation.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're kind of cool though. I've been down for that personally.
Bro, did you see Zinni singing the national anthem on his stream? This dude straight comedy, bro. Yeah, I was like, fair play, man. That was straight up comedy.
That is great.
I don't know, man. What thoughts on the Washington team? Like, is that dope?
It's dope. I wonder if they're able to they're going to be late in the game on forming rosters, you would think, right?
That would be the question, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like another LA OpTic scenario where like with like, Slasher kind of got screwed over with like how late he was in the game with like forming the team. You kind of wonder, but then again, well,
this
with
time
the guys
it's gonna be all AMs, right? So
that's true.
I mean,
yeah, because like there's no one there left because if they've merged the
it's not the situation as LA OpTic where like Slasher was stuck on that team, because of contracts. So that's also a tough spot. But yeah, I think this year it's almost locked to be all amateur players. Well, or I guess former pros or the leftovers in that sense. But
yeah,
absolutely.
LA Thieves spent 27 million to enter the CDL. They also had to take in, I think the buy-in's 25 mil, but who they bought it from Immortals, I guess, had $2 million left to pay. And then LA Thieves took that extra 2 mil. Anyways, Neptune.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, just
Slow down. I mean, who
through
cares?
it.
They used 27 mil. Dang.
Well, I thought it was interesting, right? I mean,
It is.
I just thought it was really interesting. Like, again, it's not all the upfront costs, it's paid over years, obviously. So, I mean, overall, you'd imagine as long as the league survives, LA Thieves is going to be making. I mean, that's about what we expected it to be, with Nadeshot dropping that. But I thought it was fun that Nade was bringing it up, and kind of going from there. But
Yeah.
any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think I guess it shows like it's a really good thing that like he wasn't scared off by the 27 mil. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we were like talking about like what's the draw for these teams to buy in right now, where it is a lot to fork up. Obviously, like, you're not doing
For
it.
sure.
You're not doing it all at the front, you're doing it as a loan, but still it's like, that's a lot of money. And so I'm glad that Nade took the risk, and now LA Thieves are, one of the more popular brands in the CDL. So
No,
think
yeah,
it's just-
literally. I just thought it was like interesting that he brought it up, and then not to mention like with Washington currently, working on acquiring a team and that kind of same process going through there. So it'll be interesting to hear maybe one day how much Washington ended up paying to get into the league versus how much LA Thieves paid, and like whether the city had anything to do to inflate the price as well. And then like, because the other thing that I want to talk about briefly was, and you mentioned like becoming one of the bigger brands, was LA Thieves is now the number 2 most followed account out of all the CDL teams.
Yeah.
So like, they already had an established brand with Nadeshot, obviously, and then they built a very competitive team with big names on their roster.
Mhm.
And they come in here and, they're a really respected organization and the second most followed in the CDL. Again, obviously that has a lot to do with Nadeshot, of course, but you can do it the right way. And we saw, and Easy Mac posted a whole list on teams who developed their followers. If you want to talk more about that, Rex.
Yeah. So the top 6 highest increase in follower percentage. Number 1 was FaZe. They had 104. Well, let's call it 105% increase in
Yeah,
followers.
it's pretty cool.
Second place are my friends over at New York Subliners. 96% increase. Third, interestingly enough, LA Gorillas.
Yeah, man, that new roster doing work for them.
Yeah, honest, they've gotten better. I'll say that. They did get better during Cold War.
But they increased by 67% and are still 11th. So that's tough. But, hey, shout out to LAG.
Growth is growth.
It is.
And number 4 was Toronto Ultra, 52%. Number 5 was the Rocker, 51%. And then Mutineers was 6 with 50%, which I find a little surprising.
Yeah. I mean, that is a little surprising, I think.
Because everyone kind of like hails Mutineers as like a really good social media team. But I mean, they still made top 6, which is great. But I thought they would be a little higher on the list, to be honest.
It makes sense that Atlanta FaZe is first, not just because they won champs, but also because like you have the built-in FaZe audience that like when they win champs, they're posted on all the FaZe social medias, and then the FaZe fans start following them more. So that makes sense. Because now FaZe has 124,000 followers, so they must have had like about half that before. So that's pretty solid. I mean, the Subliners doubling their following really goes to show that the power of like
They've been
Zuma.
killing it. Well,
Yeah.
power of Zuma too, but there's a social media team at work here too, and I think they're
power of Gersh.
I think they're super good.
Of course.
Shout out
Everybody over
Gersh,
there.
man.
Yeah, man. The Ultra going up 52% too. It goes to show that winning matters, like to increase your followers count, because like they've done a little bit of content, and obviously Methods is there, so that helps as well with like their overall branding and brand building. But I mean, they were also a really, really good team, but they're also like a team of players who is relatively unknown compared to the majority of the CDL heading into this year. So to see them above some of the other squads on the list is telling, to show that you just got to win,
Yeah.
So,
Winning will
pretty
get
cool
you the
overall.
followers. Next up, little bit of, hearsay. Neptune wanted to join Dallas, and Shotzzy wanted him, but his buyout was too high. This was back when they were deciding between like 3 SMGs. I think Rambo said at one point, One of them was Vivid, that's the one they got. Another one was Neptune, and Shotzzy really wanted to play with Neptune. And then the third one was Standy, I believe. Before, when they're picking up Vivid, that was the three they were looking at.
Yeah, Neptune brought that up on stream while playing Vanguard. I guess that goes to show like Crim was interested in bringing Neptune on, and then now it makes sense with the rumors, of them going to New York together. So kind of connecting those like dots as well. And then, I mean, how would you think the Neptune on that roster would play instead of Vivid?
Honestly, I think it would have been a little haphazard, like kind of chaotic, more chaotic than what they needed it to be.
Yeah, I feel like Vivid and Neptune are kind of like similar style players, although Neptune's probably a little bit worse off in S&D.
I just think Vivid has a little bit better of like, I don't know, a brain on him than Neptune. Neptune makes some pretty bad plays sometimes. And I think Vivid just is able to contain.
I mean, Vivid can get caught can get caught in respawns though too. I mean,
yeah, but I don't think as bad as Neptune does sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do feel like though, like it would have been very, very interesting to see Neptune with Shotzzy.
I know, man.
Like I think you can see Neptune trying to, in a sense, do it all and like make these weird plays on the Florida, like knowing that maybe Havoc wasn't going to be doing a ton of that. So like, maybe having Shotzzy by his side and like, okay, Shotzzy taking the pressure off of him from like trying to do these, crazy plays where at times, we have said he looked pretty like, like the plays he was making were kind of dumb at times. Right. But I don't know. I'm very curious if the 90% positive New York roster pans out with Nep and
that's exactly kind of where I go with this. Is like, well, that would have given us a better answer off the rip if whether or not Neptune is like the real deal, which now we kind of have to wait till this year to really get that finalized answer.
Yeah. I mean, now he's gonna have Crim and Clay, who are like, I mean, I think people they're like the best mentors or whatever.
Then pairing with him an elite SMG and Hydra, which then he would have got paired with Shotzzy on Dallas. So like, seeing that another SMG with him is kind of what you need to see. So we'll see. But speaking of Dallas, though, Crim on stream this week kind of did this whole reveal and like did what?
Oh my God, I watched this. It was super late at night.
Oh, it was great. It was basically like it's the closest we're going to get to the Huke video at this point about what actually happened with this Dallas team and what was going on with this team. And so long story short, with like the Huke thing, basically, Crim was kind of telling him to adapt more in game, and he felt like that Kyler was too stuck in his pre-round or pre-game plans. And he said that Kyler and Rambo made a 47-page respawn booklet on how to play certain situations in hills. And he was like, nah, man, screw that. I ain't even looking at it. And so Crim did take some like responsibility in the thing, like saying I was kind of a dick this year and I wasn't a good teammate. I should have been a better teammate and things like that. But like he said, he didn't even end up reading the 47-page strategy book that Kyler and Rambo made, which is kind of crazy. And but like basically he just kept saying like if you can't adapt, then you shouldn't be in the league. And like and then he said I think some of that stuff, some of the drama carried over with Huke to LA Thieves, and that might have caused some of the problems. And then he basically said like there was never really a sense of unity on the team with Huke there. So
hold on a second. You said Huke and Rambo made a 47-page document?
47-page strat book together about how to address certain situations. And like in this situation, when we have this hill, we do this. And he's like, Crim said, it's way too predictable. You got to be able to adapt. And if you can't, then you're not going to win. And so Crim was like, well, it's not even worth it. So
that is interesting though. Then, if Kyler was willing to put in much effort, why was he the one that was booted? Which is interesting.
Well, it seemed like he was on Rambo, like Rambo and him made that thing together. So like, it was almost like this was a coach instruction too. I kind of like looks bad for Crim from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So that was the thing and that kind of translated into Crim talking about how he got dropped. And he said it was about like a 5 to 10 minute phone call with Shotzzy, Hastro, and Rambo. And he said Stro was the only one that was legitimately sad and bummed. And the other two, he said in one word to describe it, they dropped me happily.
He said
said that.
Shotzzy did.
Yeah.
Illey, he said, didn't really
Well,
say
yeah.
much, but Illey did text him afterwards.
No, yeah, he said he called afterwards. With
Or he
Illey.
called. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And then Shotzzy didn't say
he said
anything.
Shotzzy really pissed him off. Basically, Shotzzy basically said he quoted him by saying like, "It is what it is. You were late and stuff," and that's what Shotzzy said.
They're in like the round table, you're fired discussion.
and he's like, "That pissed me off, man." You know, I was like, how Crim says that stuff, you know?
yeah.
And, it was comedy. He said the call lasted less than 10 minutes, and then like he said, "Illey's my guy," but he's like, but at the end of the day, he agreed. And then he's like, Ender even started breaking down a little bit, like crying, and then Crim said like, "But he's still my Pope." And he said the call with like Ender lasted like 2 or 3 times longer, basically. So
Yeah.
weird stuff. He definitely at one point he did say like, "I think I should have got dropped. I was a bad teammate. I deserved this roster change," like in different points throughout. So like he understands why they dropped him because he definitely thinks he didn't do enough, and like that he definitely referenced back to him not reading the 47-page strategy book.
Mhm.
But it is interesting. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I get what he's saying, but you have to be adaptable. And I guess that's something I don't know what the right answer is. It's always, I feel like it's good to always have that extra there.
Have the plan.
But there is a problem with like, if you start putting things in little boxes that when something happens that's not in this pretty box, you don't know what to do anymore.
For sure.
So I understand that point of view. But I think
That
if
is-
a coach brings it to your attention, I feel like you got to look at it. Like that's the respect I think coaches need to start earning more that they haven't had in the COD League. You know, coaches right now are kind of like the side piece, like kind of the joke a little bit. And I think they deserve a lot more respect than they're getting.
Yeah, that is a very interesting take though. Like where, you know, do you think having this like pre-planned, you go over every little thing.
Here's
in
our
a
setup
certain
in this
map,
situation. Here's our setup in that situation. Here's
or would you
all
rather
those
have
things.
it be where it's like teach the player how to adapt, and then that player can like know, okay,
right.
this happens. Let's like your natural ability should carry you to the right situation. I don't know. I'm sure.
I mean, there's pros and cons to both, right?
Exactly.
Because like,
Yeah.
if you're a Crim, I mean, yeah, you've been playing COD for 15 years. Like,
Mhm.
you can probably adapt. But like, Kyler, he's been in and out of the scene with Halo and all that. And like, obviously he was trying to put some steps forward to improve in this game and create some strategy and some playbooks. And so I'd imagine that didn't make him feel good when Crim's just like, "Nah, man, I'm not reading that."
No.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's at least a little feel bad. Like, at least from my perspective, it's like, it's nice to have the plan, and in an ideal situation, you can fall back on those things. But yeah, you do need to adapt. But I'd imagine, I mean, maybe I'm giving Kyler the benefit of the doubt. I'd imagine Kyler's not like, well, in every single situation, no matter what, we're going to set up on P2 like this. Like,
Yeah.
I'd imagine that's not the case, but maybe it was. I don't know. So I was a little bit taken back by Crim saying that, like, that he didn't even open it up. Like, that's a little, it kind of feels like a dick move. I mean, come on.
It is a little strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is interesting just to like kind of see like how that all played down, and like having Crim be like the bad teammate. I don't know. It didn't seem like Crim like would be that guy, but
Right. But that's why I really did respect that he like acknowledged that and was like, "Man, I was a bad teammate this year. Like, I get why they wanted to drop me." So like, he was very honest about that too. So it was kind of the two sides of the coin, but definitely not the best look though. And I think it makes me feel a lot better about Kyler and like his dedication and like him being here all in to win, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think it gets me more excited about LAG and like, a guy like him, like, Gunless is open in that book, like Gunless is all in for that.
Yeah.
And like, with like ASIM and I would imagine Slasher's all in on something like that too. So I don't know. That's an interesting conversation. Like with Crim saying like, look at the mini map and not being able to adapt and all those things. But I mean, maybe Kyler felt like he just needed a little bit more structure, and like, would a little bit more structure hurt Shotzzy and Illey? Probably not. Like, at least in my perspective, I feel like Kyler was kind of on the right page there, the right track there with that conversation.
I feel like at the very least, look at it, because like he said, like the biggest problem is that like, it's like Huke was kind of doing his own thing and had like a different way of doing things. I feel like in that book would give you key insights as to how Huke is envisioning things playing out in his mind. So it can give you an idea of like, that's how he's perceiving these situations. Now you know exactly how to correct it or to adjust to it.
Right. And like, it feels like a conversation that like a team should be having, right? Like if you're a COD pro, I feel like you'd be excited to be like, well, how about we debate playing the hill this way or debate playing the hill this way or like, you know, playing this zone and control this way and like those types of things. So it's like, you know, if someone took the time to put that together, I'm surprised that you wouldn't be excited to go through and like nitpick certain things and bring counter arguments to the table.
Yeah.
You know, which I feel like should be happening, but maybe it's not. And, you know, that is also a place where like coaches can come into play there. Like if you have a big coaching staff, then the coaches can look through that thing and then they're counter arguing with each other and having some positive conversations. And then you're bringing that information to the leaders of your team, like Crim or whoever it is, you know, for FaZe it'd be like Arcides or the whole squad and bringing those strategies to the table and like, all right, what do you think about this? Or how about this option? And I think that can only be beneficial to a team, like going over those things that
Does
a little bit surprising.
Yeah. Does this worry you at all about Crim's, you know, kind of state in competitive Call of Duty? Will this if this was how he kind of viewed, you know, the past year, what changes for him this year? Like what, like, you know what I mean? Like he had a great team around him.
Do I dare say it, Sam?
What?
It's Clayster.
Clayster?
100%.
I was waiting for you to say it.
100%. You know, they're going to keep each other sane. I think Clayster kind of needed Crimsix as well. Like, you know, he's having a lot of, like, he's tearing his own hair out with the team he had. And I think as these old veterans, like, they know they're not going to be the best player on the team, but they know what the intangibles that they can bring that will be essential.
And then you put two straight shooters around them and then suddenly things start working.
Yeah. So like when you're by yourself with three people who don't know, it's hard. Like it's almost like herding cats, like maybe at times. It's just so hard to pay attention to everybody and all what they're doing. But with both of you there, you can now, you know, almost just like Crimsix will kind of mentor Neptune. Clayster will kind of mentor Hydra in a way and kind of like build that formation. They have each other to lean on as like leaders.
Yeah, I agree. And like there is like an aspect of it where it's better to have a plan than no plan in every situation, even if the plan sucks. And like, you know, in a situation like that where maybe you're just like, Crim can't get on the same page as Huke, and Huke wants to get on Shotzzy and Illey's page, but Crim wants to be on his own page. And then like having these two different approaches maybe just made it difficult to just work together. And that's kind of how it came down. But like, I do agree with you though. Like there is an aspect of it too, where Clay is a little bit better at delivering the information than Crim is. And we even heard that last year, like Illey and Shotzzy and Huke would like say that Clay was kind of the translator. Like Crim would say this thing. And then Clay would be like, well, I think he means this. And then they'd be like, oh, okay. All right. That makes more sense. You know? And so I think that'll help too, where Crim can kind of just say things a little bit too straightforward once in a while. And that can come off. He has the parasite problem sometimes where it's like, he's obviously right and he means good, but then he can come off a little harsh.
Yeah, it brings it back to that Black Ops 4 clip with him and Scumpy.
Yeah. Like, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? You literally are stupid.
Stop talking to me like I'm stupid. You are stupid.
Yeah, it's almost like Crimsix is like the drill sergeant and Clayster's the therapist.
Yeah, but they both shoot straight and they put a lot of
They both shoot straight, and it creates for a great environment of a winning mentality of that drill sergeant, but also like the good vibes that you know, a therapist, I guess, brings to your brain.
I think so. I like it overall. But yeah, man, that was kind of the rant there. I almost forgot to bring that up earlier, so I was like, crap, we need to talk about that. But
Timthetatman is now a co-owner with Complexity.
Yeah, man, very interesting.
Hopefully they
not
enter
directly
the
COD related, but formerly COD related. And then Timthetatman plays a bunch of Warzone, so you never know. You never know. Again, and they're associated with the Cowboys and everything too. They got their partnership with the Cowboys, so it makes a lot of sense for Timthetatman, who's a Cowboys fan and all that, to partner with Complexity. So
they bring back Sensor to captain the Complexity COD team.
Why not, man? Right? I think you got to.
Yeah. Sensor's on KC Pioneers now, I think.
Oh, shut up.
He is. Yeah.
All leaks for Vanguard.
Yeah, Vanguard. Thoughts on Vanguard? So we the one thing we happened today that CDL Intel tweeted right before we started to go live or to start recording this was that custom games opened up And so you can kind of get at least a feel or like some sort of feel for what custom games are going to be like this year. And they have a lot of settings to turn things off. And you can turn off like destructible walls and weapon mounting and weapon pings and the combat fog and like the dynamic map elements and the headshot bonuses. So they have a lot of already built in settings that competitive can really work with to change the game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing everyone was talking about was like, are there going to be destructible walls? No, like you can turn those off. It's like weapon mounting. You turn that off. Weapon pings on the map.
Interesting.
You can turn all these like things that I think some of us in the competitive community were worried about, mainly the destructible wall thing.
I mean, I'd imagine if you turn off destructible walls, though, it's still wall bangable as fluff. Like, it doesn't just turn them into iron walls suddenly, right?
No, I was gonna say like I wonder if it's literally just they make them open, like how
they're already open.
I bet they're already open, right?
Yeah, because like that was my one gripe with destructible environments is like
there's so many angles.
It's cool, but they're gonna be opened at some point. It's like, what's the point? Like you're gonna hit them anyways. I don't know.
In SMDs, I think they could be fun.
Like that, that'd be cool for like one, like if you're playing Respawn, they're good for like one kill, but then otherwise they're just open, right? So
why not just have them open the whole time?
Exactly. So like I think that's what it would be, is if you turn them off, they're just open. So
S&D would just created too many like cruddy annoying things. You have to either have them open or like they're not even wall bangable. Like, so they'll probably just be open. I'd imagine that's probably what it would be then. That makes sense. And then also you can disable tactical sprint.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So you can disable tactical sprint, which is really interesting.
What happens? Are we going to be disabling it in competitive, or are we going to have ATS?
It's weird though, because it's like, in Modern Warfare, we still played with tactical sprint. It just wasn't auto tac sprint. So like, if you don't play with tac sprint, suddenly it's a pretty slow game. I feel like when you don't have tac sprint, it feels pretty slow.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like I guess it depends. Especially like what kind of maps we're gonna see. Like I know, you think about, is it Eagle's Nest is the one that's got like basically like the block with like the
really narrow angles and small building and stuff.
Like that wouldn't be that bad. That wouldn't be that bad with no tac sprint. But if we see larger maps, then it would definitely feel like a slower Call of Duty. But I mean, I wouldn't mind just turning it off. I mean, save some thumbsticks. Like you'll get your timings anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. My vote would be just have tac sprint. Just have auto tac sprint. Screw it.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least personally, I feel like the slide's not as broken in this game, but maybe it's just because we haven't figured out how to break it fully yet, which is possible.
I feel like that's what it needs to be. It needs to be either off or it needs to be auto tac sprint. Like it's just dumb mashing.
Dealing with tac sprint without auto tac sprint
it's just dumb mashing the L
devastating.
Button.
Yeah. It's the worst. It's just the worst. It's terrible. And then you have to deal with the GAs, and like if it's just a GA, then it's like even worse. So yeah, I'm with you there. That's fair. So I don't know, thoughts on the beta so far. What are your guys' experience with it?
I actually like I had a good time. Obviously there was some graphical issues on the Series X and S, which I think did get fixed. So that was my one gripe. But honestly, it was kind of interesting. I saw this tweet that stated Vanguard is a Call of Duty game that it's a World War II skin, but doesn't want to be a World War II game. Like it, they're adding in all this like futuristic stuff, which like to me, like I get that point where it's like, okay, that is kind of weird, but I like that though. Like I like how we're able to like skin something, but we're still able to like modernize it. So like,
give us a good red dot. I'm happy about that.
To me, I
agree.
To me, I get the argument where it's like you're not being true to the era. But I don't know why can't we have these skinned Call of Duties where it's different eras, but then do alternate gun styles, alternate reality. I don't know. I'm a fan of it because it feels like a fun game now where I don't feel like I have to use iron sight, old school.
Yeah, like
just
a PPSH the whole time, or a bar, right? I'm with you there.
So I thoroughly enjoyed my time when I was playing it.
I feel like I can see the potential. It's like a nice canvas for what could be a beautiful painting.
It is. Absolutely.
Like there's obviously the balancing things, and the 10 attachments potential is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know if I can get on board with the 10 attachments because the time to kill when you have the best attachments on these things is crazy. It's fast. Crazy. It's so fast.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's something I think pretty blatantly wrong with audio. You cannot hear people shooting at you. I mean, it's weird. Like you'll.
Really, I feel like I haven't had that many problems with the audio.
Really, maybe it's just me.
I feel like I did.
There's times where I'll be getting shot at, not knowing it, get killed, and then in the kill cam, he's literally been shooting me for like the past 5 seconds. I'm like, I didn't hear a single bullet.
I definitely heard some people talk about the issues with it before too. So I think that's pretty common for sure with the audio issues. I mean, again, it definitely has its issues, which is
but it's beta, so like things like that, you can get fixed.
It's a beta.
And like BO4 had a lot of issues at launch too. There was a lot of, bro, we were playing with like all those insane like specialist like side attachments at the beginning of Black Ops 4. Like at the beginning that's it, you could put down like the barbed wire, on the bomb.
That was the greatest clip ever.
Like what is happening?
Someone put the barbed wire and then also the shield, the heat shield.
Yeah.
It was like it's impossible to defuse.
Unreal, dude. So that's the thing. Like, I'd imagine over time the thing is gonna get better. And again, we've only ever heard so far good things about the response and like the Vanguard's interest for competitive COD. And so at this point, we still have no reason not to believe that they're going to be pretty responsive with competitive COD. And the custom game stuff where they already have rule sets in the game for CDL rule sets and those types of things, and having like the bars currently banned right now in that rule set, which is kind of weird, first of all, but so it's good to see they already have at least working on these things with some potential competitive rule sets in the works already. So that's exciting. And hopefully we can get to a point pretty early on here where we have a nice competitive rule set and people are excited about the game, and we have league play.
December.
An event in December. League play and an event in December or earlier would be just complosion.
I guess also, I mean, side note, other like multiplayer game modes, like new ones that would be coming is Arms Race. I guess Control will be returning. Crawl, another game mode. A game mode called Minefield, where players drop lethal mines on death. And then the one we've played in the beta, which is Patrol.
I mean, Sledgehammer is the greatest at experimenting. So who knows? One of these could be pretty fun.
Yeah, I saw Huke was pretty excited about Patrol in that video with Gunless. They made a Gunless for LAG. Huke was like, I kind of want to give Patrol a go competitively. And I'm like, interesting for Huke to say something like that. Yeah, I mean, again, some of the map names are kind of weird. So they had like 20 maps. Some of the 16, because they said they're having 16 multiplayer maps. But we might have gotten bamboozled potentially with like some of the names of them are a little bit weird. Like maybe they're not fully like, maybe they're just night versions of some of the maps. I'm not exactly like sure what's going on.
Didn't Modern Warfare have the like night versions?
Yeah.
Like Azure Cave and stuff.
Yep. So there's a world where that could have happened, but there was more than 20 maps listed there. So it's possible that there's still 16 with then the additional ones are like night versions of those maps. So it's possible we could have more than 16 if you count the night version one. So there's a lot of potential interesting situations there. And I think like I said, a lot of promise for competitive COD this year if we can stick with Vanguard. I know people love dogging on the beta and love saying it's chalked and like hating on the game during the betas. Like Modern Warfare was completely chalked during the beta. Cold War was chalked during the beta. The skill-based matchmaking, I hated that beta. I actually was like scared for the year, like after the beta.
It was pretty
it turned out great. So like this year, I've actually enjoyed the beta quite a bit, all things considered. And I'm pretty optimistic, man. I'm looking forward to it. So with that said, boys, I think we can get into our first like conversation here, which is ranking the middle guys, the toughest players to rank in competitive COD. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into this one.
Okay.
Let's get it.
Trash. Garbage.
Alrighty, the middle guys, the toughest guys to rank in Call of Duty. So this is gonna be interesting. So I thought it'd be fun to have a little conversation just with a specific set of guys. And we're going to be doing this, and then we're going to be ranking the 10 most valuable players. So there's kind of going to be a lot of ranking of debating COD Pros for the next, 45 minutes or so. But we'll see what happens. So off the rip, we want to kind of split up into like an SMG category and then a flex category and debate some of the toughest guys to rank in the CDL. So off the rip, we're going to start with the SMGs. All right. So we're going to start with Bance, Drazah, Neptune, Huke, and Vivid. We're counting Drazah as like an SMG in his time as an SMG, but like he's kind of weird because he was a main SMG for a while, but also a flex. And so we were like, we'll throw him in both. So we'll just talk about Drazah in both situations because why not? But we'll see what happens. So I guess I just kind of want to, I don't know if you just want to go kind of like just reveal our ranking order of these guys and go from there. We'll just reveal it off the rip then. Who do we all have as the best player out of that group of 5 on the season? So how we're ranking this, by the way, is basically based off Cold War. Like if you're building a team to win in Cold War, like which guy would you prefer to have on your squad is probably the best way to look at it overall. The guy who performed the best individually and the most talented player of that group of guys. So Rex, who do you have out of that group of SMGs?
I would probably take Drazah.
As a main SMG?
I guess. Am I building a roster? Like this is just, they're playing SMG.
They're playing SMG.
Okay, so maybe I'll take Huke then. I think Huke, I'll go with Huke. I think Huke is an astounding SMG player. And obviously from what we've heard from Crimsix's spiel, like he's very dedicated to the game and learning the game. And I respect that out of a player. And Huke's Huke the nuke.
Heck yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I think in the right situation, even in Cold War, Huke could have still been like an elite player for sure.
I mean, he was. People were calling him like one of the best, like if not the best player on Dallas when he was there. Yeah,
for sure. That's fair. All right, Sam, who did you have at number 1?
I too had Huke.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Huke-a-rooney.
Although I will say this was quite the battle for me in my head. So 2 is very close. But I personally believe
interesting.
I personally believe Huke has the best individual talent out of all these 5 guys.
Yeah, that's what's tough, Yeah.
Now you can't get in debate of his season, right? He had a pretty bad season. I'm not willing to chalk up his individual performance because of this season. I think he's talented. I think he makes any team better. Now the decisions he makes outside of with like spelling his name, not being that kind of thing, Kaiwer. That's unfortunate. I'm really hoping that was just some really bad mistakes. But that's my reasoning. Because number 2 is obviously going to be very close, and I think people could pick this number 2 as number 1 as well.
Interesting. I mean, well, that's what's tough though, because it's like, how do you value Bance, like a guy who was so consistent throughout the year after stage 2 and like played so well versus, the high upside inconsistent Neptune versus Huke, who barely played the second half of the season, or Vivid, who didn't play for a whole stage basically, and then Drazah, who only played SMG for like our main SMG for like a few weeks. So it's like, or I guess for a stage and a half. So it is kind of weird where it's like, that's why these guys are so weird to rank. And I think every single person might have like a different view of each of these guys. So like, because I would say Bance probably had the best season out of all of these guys. But then if I was building a team, I think I agree with you. Like I'd want to take the chance on Huke that he can get back to being a top 5 type SMG in the CDL. So there is kind of the debate of how you want to, just debating the baseline of the question in the first place.
Yep.
But when it comes to like a guy, like if I was trying to win a COD champs, I mean, like, obviously Bance is perfect for the Ultra, and there's not a guy that you'd rather have on that team than Bance.
Yeah.
But like, if you're trying to build an SMG, I think I agree with you. Huke's probably got to be the top.
Yeah.
So,
I think it is a case of like Bance is in the perfect spot for him. He really didn't have all that, super or I don't know.
Wasn't super flashy.
Wasn't super flashy.
And then after stage 2,
even before this year, he obviously was a great player, but was Bance ever on the forefront of your mind when you're trying to build?
Well, no, he was on the fringe of droppable bullet points last year.
Exactly. So I think this is a case where, this is no shade towards Bance, but I think he is in a perfect role for him. And I hope he can.
Right. That's exciting
continue.
about it, is that he can be very good on the Ultra, which is awesome. Like if you're ranking players who contributed the most to a team's success, like Bance is very high on the list. Yeah, he's very high on the list. So, and we might just talk about him later. Who knows? The most valuable players. So like, it's just tough when you're building. If you're like talking in the sense of like individually isolating a lot of the team dynamics, then it's like, I feel like he gets moved down the list, unfortunately. But maybe that's unfair to him now. Maybe he has leveled up as a player, but I feel like it's just hard to say when we haven't seen him not on the Ultra, which is tough. Yeah. So who's second on the list for you guys?
Bance for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rex?
Yeah. That was the battle, was that difference of individual skill versus team performance versus,
contributing
best fit
to a team. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. I agree with you. Rex, who did you have?
Man, I really like Drazah as a player. I guess I'm trying to remember what he was like as an SMG. I don't remember him being amazing as an SMG though, but he was amazing as a flex.
There's a place for him on the next list. I think he was
in the flex list.
On the flex. Yes, I think
so too.
I think he was an amazing.
So
flex.
like, I'm trying to remember like what I remember of Drazah just as an SMG, and it's like hard for me to like differentiate.
He definitely wasn't as flashy as an SMG as he was as a flexer during those times. But again, you could also debate that we didn't get a full fair look at Drazah, considering he played like 2, debatably 3 different roles with his team on different rosters. So it's like, it's really hard to get a full grasp of what Drazah was after this year, considering we saw him in so many different roles.
However, he was very impactful in those roles for his team.
Definitely,
for sure. 100%.
Definitely. I agree. So who would you have at number 2, Rex?
At number 2, I think, you know what? I'm going to take Drazah. I am. I think Drazah, like, despite that, I think his SMG gameplay can be even better than what we've seen. I think that he has a certain fire in him that we don't see, I think, in a lot of pros, that I think no matter what team he goes on, that team is going to be motivated in some way. At the very least, he is going to be. And you can count on that. Always the joke with him is like, he says, don't chow me on check. And it's like one of those things, like he just says it in every conversation he can. And like, that can be like nerdy or whatever you want to call it. But like little things like that people just for some reason cling on to, like show the level of like enthusiasm they have for the game that they're playing or for whatever they're doing. So I really like that aspect of Drazah, and I think that could be beneficial to pretty much any team, having somebody has that sort of fire.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I was kind of going back and forth with a lot of those, with basically everyone else on the list, but I did go with Bance at number 2 as well there. So we kind of have overall been at least in a pretty similar ballpark. So I think we can collectively, our list at this point would be then Huke, then Bance, I guess. And then Sam, who would you have at 3?
I do have Drazah at 3.
Okay. So then Drazah would be 3 on our list then.
Yeah. I think Drazah was definitely more, you can say, more impactful as a player when he was going between the AR and the sub with Kenny, as with those AR, those.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember they were playing a checkmate, and it was Kenny and Drazah literally taking over. And I think it was TJ and Venom at that time were the sub duo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he was incredible. So I'm very curious to see how he works in the main sub role with Envoy, of course.
If that happens, which they still could go either way with it at this point. So
yep, absolutely. So I think there's still questions to be answered, but I think he has very much proven himself to be
a very competent pro,
a very
for sure.
competent player, and I think a very impactful one too. Which
that's fair.
No spoilers. He'll show up in the later list.
Oh, interesting.
We'll see.
I had a really tough time with it because, like, I feel like if I was building a roster for Vanguard, I think I'd rather have Neptune just as a main SMG for sure.
Neptune was a hard one for me because I think he's got a lot of growing to do.
Well, that's a tough thing with Neptune and Vivid is, like, again, since we are talking specifically about Cold War, like if we were trying to win champs or whatever with building rosters, like I could see trying to go Drazah, but I feel like Neptune, if you pair with the right players, man, he could be really scary. And so it's like with this New York roster, it makes a lot of sense why you prioritize having Neptune on that team. So
yeah,
I
think
guess maybe we can just kind of reveal our last few here. Draw, you think safer?
I think Draws is the safer at this point for an SMG. Like
Interesting.
Neptune, I think Neptune does have a higher ceiling. I think Neptune does have a higher ceiling.
Like take over a game
as an
or
SMG.
whatnot.
Absolutely. My question is,
are we underrating Vivid?
Maybe.
Because these guys are all impactful.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I'll tell you my list.
Fire them off.
Mine was Huke, Bance, Draza. And then I actually have Vivid and then Neptune. I have Neptune last. And I think I'm gonna get some flack for this. But I have serious questions about Neptune. I think he is one of the most individually talented SMG.
Right.
But if he never clicks on a team, does it matter?
Like what's also interesting is that we saw him like have unbelievably great moments in all three game modes at different points, like Express S&D where he literally dominated, or like different hard points where he just took over, like a checkmate where he had like 40 kills or whatever. Like there was different moments in literally all three different game modes where he dominated points. And you can't say that about every single player in the CDL, where like he showed upside in all the game modes. And so then the debate comes down to like, is that because of Florida where the inconsistencies came down to? Just as a squad, they just were inconsistent and it kind of held back the personal success? Or was it a collective individual effort that made them all inconsistent? So that is always a tough debate there. So I think I would go Huke, Bance, Neptune, Vivid, Draza, but like Neptune, Vivid, and Draza are so close in that ranking. And it's because I feel like Draza I prefer as a flex. So that'd be where. Rex, what's your final list there?
So I would do Huke, Draza, Bance, Neptune, Vivid.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess that means that we have Draza at 3, and then that's kind of tough. Then we might feel like kind of tied on Neptune and Vivid, kind of 4 or 5 interchangeably. But all right, well, I'm okay with that. I can settle with that for now. So on to the flexes. The 5 flexes we had to grade today. Or I guess we have 6 now with Draza. So we have 6 flexes to kind of talk about here. Mac, Gunless, Priestahh, Illey, and then for sure Draza. Major Maniac, I kind of wanted to throw in there as another player where, like, depending on his roster, he might flex this year. He's obviously a main AR. So I guess we can leave Major Maniac off the list and just talk about Draza
Are we considering Draza a middle guy when it comes to flexes?
What do you mean?
I mean, this is about like the middle guys, right? So like they're not supposedly like the top echelon, but they're also
difficult to rank guys. I mean, kind of just that, difficult to rank. So yeah, Matt, Gunless, Priestahh, Illey, and Draza on that list of 5. So where would you have those guys? Who's at the top for you? So is Draza stand away at top?
Draza's probably number 1 for me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what he does in Vanguard, but from what we've seen from him, going to be astounding.
I think he was the brightest spot on the LA Thieves team, personally. Right. All year long. When he was that flex player, he truly did what he had to do in each of the SMG and the AR roles. I mean, truly. I can't see a counter argument where it's like, he obviously was the bright spot, but was he like a great flex player? And I'd say so, honestly. He knows the game well. He's very smart. He's got a straight gunny, and even too when you look at his role last year on LA OpTic, he was also a bright spot for that team too. So it's like,
right, he's shown potential in both games now.
Yeah, he's shown that he can be added to a team and provide value, which I think that should be highly
and make them better. I mean, he added him to that squad of great veteran players last year, made him better. Then they added him this year again with great veteran players and made him better.
Yeah. So I think he should really be highly regarded as like a fantastic player. Now I am curious to see, like, what we've seen, like where he will be, placed as SMG duo with Envoy, or maybe he'll run the second AR.
It's tough because neither him or Kenny have looked like a dominant sub the past 2 years. So It's tough to say exactly with that roster specifically, but we'll
but
see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though. Draw is at the top for my ranking as well. It was a close one, though, between some of the other guys. But all right, then who is number 2? Rex, who's your number 2?
This was a tough one for me, and I might get some slack for this, but I'm taking Illey as my number 2.
Interesting. Okay.
I know
the
he maybe
end
didn't.
of the year improvement.
End of the year improvement. Like, I guess overall, I guess you could say he didn't have like the greatest Cold War season near the beginning. We know all like the turmoil and everything Empire was going through. And my pre-prediction with him is that he was going to be an MVP. Didn't end up happening, but I still see a lot of potential with Illey. I think for him, it really depends on the environment given to him and what he can do with it.
Man, this year could be great for him.
He could be really, really good for him. So,
or really bad.
I think Illey has a great mind on his shoulders.
I
think Illey has always been an amazing S&D player. Probably one of the best, if not the best, on Empire. So I will go Illey as my number 2.
Sam?
I have Mac as my number 2.
Oh, interesting. We all have different ones.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think Mac has played his role really well, and not to mention, being on the Sublioness roster where you have Hydra as pretty much your dominant gun. You have Clayster, who was very one of the best ARs. Honestly, I mean, he was incredible at Cold War. And then you still have Mac going off. There'd be series where like Mac was just dominant.
And there's also a series where he disappears.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the thing.
Absolutely. There was some
But to be fair,
inconsistencies.
all of these guys at some point in this year disappeared.
That would be my argument. Is
counter argument.
All these guys, there was times where it was like these guys didn't do much.
You
on
weren't
the
sure
map.
if they were elite or not. And that there was all moments at times. So that's fair.
Yeah, so that would be my kind of the reason why I have Mac up there. But I can definitely see it's hard because I really think this group was way harder to rank than the SMG group.
I agree.
So take it as you will.
My guy's the most reliable player here. He hasn't been dominant like top 5 in the last 2 years, but he's been very good when he's been playing, and that's Gunless. I mean, it's Gunless. I have a lot of confidence in Gunless in the right situation that this dude can be an elite player in the CDL. And that's kind of what it comes down to. This year was obviously tough for him with the Surge. I don't think they ever really bought in to each other fully. Like, it never really felt like they were fully bought in till LAN. And then we saw them beat FaZe. We saw them make runs. So, I just think we never got to see the best of Gunless this year. So, I get the idea that, if you're ranking off their full-on personal performance, maybe you put them lower. But I think if you're building a squad, though, and you can pull Gunless off of that team and put him with 3 other guys in Cold War, I think Gunless could have been really freaking good still. So, I like Gunless a lot, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. All right, who's your next guy up?
Gunless for me.
You made some good points with Gunless there. I was gonna say Mac, but I don't know how to word almost like the tenacity of Gunless. I think. Is worth some merit.
It is.
Well, and here's the thing too is like you're saying, Josh, what you're getting with Gunless. He has been that player that he's the same player every single year. You can obviously make arguments about performance wise, where Black Ops 4 he was insane at the beginning. Kind of fell off a little bit at the end. Hasn't been in a spot where he's really shown since
in
then.
Modern Warfare, he was solid, but again, it was also a weird situation with that team too. So it's
absolutely. So yeah, but when it comes to what kind of a role and who you're getting, Gunless has been one of the most consistent players, I think.
Yeah, and I think that means something for sure. And even this year, he had a little bit of a lull. I think stage 2 maybe he was really struggling, but that second half of the year, Gunless had some pretty big moments. And early on in the year, he had some really big moments too. So overall, I think he still has a lot of upside.
I say if I'm just drafting, I only could pick one flex and I don't know who my other players are, I guess Gunless would be my 3rd on this.
Interesting. Okay.
So we persuaded you.
Right.
I think
that's
it
the thing.
was just
Gunless
like-
is like a more niche personality where like a guy like Priestahh, you can play with freaking anyone, you know? So it's like if you take like the personality aspects into account, then it's like, well, that's maybe a different conversation. But like straight up individual talent, though, which is kind of what our whole point is. Gunless is as good as it gets.
Like out of all these, I think he's gonna be one of the more consistent ones.
Yeah.
I know he can compete with the big dogs. I know he can have a veteran mindset. So yeah, I think Gunless will be my third.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So Sam, who's your? You said Gunless is your second.
Gunless
My-
is second. Yep.
Okay. All right.
No, wait. Sorry. Draza, Matt, Gunless. So Gunless third.
Oh,
Sorry.
Gunless is your third. Okay. So I had Gunless at 1, which means I had a tough debate between all of these guys. So I've been currently working on my top 30 players
Wait,
list.
didn't you have Draza's? I thought we all had Draza's.
Oh,
one.
my bad. Sorry. Yeah. Draws at 1.
Okay.
My bad. Draws at 1, Gunless at 2. So I've been working on my top 30 players list, and basically Gunless, Mac, Priestahh, and Illey were like back to back in my rankings. And I was like, man, these guys are so tough to like.
Makes
Which
sense.
guy would I really prefer on the squad?
Yeah.
So I
That's why it's
ended up-
harder.
No, it's really tough. So I ended up going Mac at 2, or I mean at 3 behind Gunless, but like it was not easy. I like the upside of my like Mac, like what you were saying, Rex, overall, and the potential for slang. But like, I still think we haven't seen the best. I think there's still more in Priestah's tank. There's so much more in Illey's tank. Like it's tough when we're talking Cold War. But if we're talking straight up Cold War, I think I have to go Mac.
It
Like,
is
if, I was
hard.
looking, if I was looking at next year, I'd probably prefer Priestahh or Illey for Vanguard.
It is hard too because like you're trying to balance what you know a player can do versus what they look like. You know,
or what they could do with other teammates.
Yeah. So I think that's the hard part is how much do you weigh of, you know, what we have seen from them versus what we think and pretty much can like almost guarantee if they've you know they're in a different spot.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
I agree. So
I mean, if we're strictly talking who was the better flex, just like pure better flex in Cold War.
but it feels like we're building
Or-
a team to win at champs, though. Like that's kind of how I've been looking at it.
Okay, so that's where it changed a little bit. Okay, I'll keep what I got.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. All right. So then who are your last? Just say your last 2 here. What's your last order here?
Yeah. So so it'd go Illey, Priestahh, Major for me for the last 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Rex?
What was your full list, Sam?
So Draza 1, Mac 2, Gunless 3, Illey 4, Priestahh 5, Major 6.
All right. So for me, mine's gonna be Draza is 1, Illey 2, Gunless 3, Mac 4, Priestahh 5, Major 6.
Man, yeah, I had Draza, Gunless, Mac, and then Priestahh, Illey.
Dude, you guys
Then Major.
you guys disrespect Illey too much.
I know, I don't feel good about it, but again, they were back to back. Like, it's just really tough. I think they're really interchangeable when it comes down to like which players fit better with other players when you're building a roster. And that's why when people get these guys are all in the same tier of a tier list. Like they're very comparable right
Yeah.
here. But it'll be interesting to see which one of those guys. If you had to put your money on which player will emerge, I think we'd all say Draza. So outside of Draza, which of those other guys would emerge to like rise to the top in Vanguard?
Gunless.
Rex, would you say Illey?
I would say Illey or Mac.
I'd probably go Illey. Yeah, I'd probably go Illey. So it gets interesting.
Illey's gonna
That's what's
shine
fun.
at some point. There's no way Illey doesn't end up shining.
Yeah,
at some
I know,
point.
and like that's
Illey
why
will
like
get his moment.
pairing him with Dashy and Scump and Shotzzy is like it's a fun team, man. There's a lot of room to shine with that roster, so we'll see. But all right, with that said, though, we can now transition to our 10 most valuable players of Cold War. And we'll see if any of those guys we just talked about end up getting mentioned. We'll see. Without further ado, let's get into it.
When you can't pass the trooper exam, you black out if you don't have a Snickers bar like every 20 minutes. You had the chance to be the MVP and, oh, you blew it.
Alrighty, this is going to be, we already know this is about to be spicy. I mean, this is going to be controversial. This is going to be a tough conversation to have together, okay? We're going to start a fight. This is going to be a full-on UFC experience right here, all right? There's This is a YouTube boxing event you're currently tuned into live. So we're doing the top 10 most valuable pros. And we kind of prefaced the idea. It was kind of like the 2 idea template here, the 2 questions you could ask yourself. It was the which 10 players teams would regress the most in Cold War if you took them off and replaced them with the league average player? Or who are the 10 players that if you put with 3 league average teammates would improve and elevate that team the most in Cold War? So it's kind of the template to look at when we're going through this, and it's kind of be how we're going to reflect the conversation back to with those 2 questions. The guys that impact the team the most, that can change the game, that can improve the teammates around them, and can elevate a team to a championship level.
This is so hard.
It is very
there is no perfect answer for this. So it's not going to be an easy conversation to have because there's going to be so many different ways to interpret that and different avenues to take. Because it's like, do you take the pure talent of a player? Like this guy's talent elevates a team. And then with this conversation, like you do have to take their teammates into consideration. Like without this, if you take off this player, this team collapses. If you take out this player, the team collapses. And there could be multiple players on one team potentially. Like if you say like this team would, like for example with FaZe, like if you say you could take out maybe any of those guys and suddenly that team's not going to dominate like they did. So those are all the different angles we're going to be going from today. And I guess we're going to go from 10 to 1. And then maybe at the end, we can talk about a few guys who are right on the fringe, who are honorable mentions as well. Maybe at the end, depending on how much time we got. So Sam, lead the way. Who you got?
All right. Well, I've always been a fan of this guy. No secret on the podcast here, but
oh really? No secrets.
No secrets. But my 10 came to Drazah.
Oh wow! Off the rip, teasing your first pick earlier.
Off the rip.
Wow, look at that, man. Explain yourself.
Yeah, Drazah comes into mind very much. So when you talk about taking away a player,
well, he did
team,
get taken away.
He did, and we saw the results. And so
he came back because he was so valuable.
Exactly. To me, Drazah is like the clear picture of like someone who was taken away from a team who clearly shouldn't have been. And we saw immediately not as good results.
Interesting.
Again, it was hard. There was a couple other people. I'm not sure.
There's so many guys. Yeah, we'll save the honorable mentions for the end.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's tough, man. Drazah's not on my list.
I'm not surprised, honestly.
I mean, LAP's kind of sucked.
Yes.
So like
they did.
That's tough.
Yeah. So this one is definitely one where I think people could be like, you're stupid, which I am stupid, but
fair play. All right.
Fair
Good
play.
To hear.
But given Drazah, if you really was given a fair chance, longer
year-long chance,
a year-long chance, I think he would have improved LA Thieves much more than he already did.
That's fair.
So that's kind of what was my mindset going into this number 10. Maybe not so much of like putting him on just the league average. It wouldn't be that crazy, but I think taking away from a team very much so is was detrimental to the Thieves.
Rex, is Drazah on your list?
He is on my list. I actually have him higher.
Oh, really? So do we want to kind of reveal them as we go here, like kind of like how we did last time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
I mean,
so where do you have Drazah on your list?
On the list I have him at number 7.
Wow, that's pretty high.
I have him pretty high. I think.
Wow.
I mean, I think Drazah was the catalyst for the success.
The only reason they had any success.
Yeah, I kind of do believe he was kind of the only reason they started even showing semblances of having success. Was when they added him to the roster. So that's why I have him at number 7.
I think part of it did come down to Kenny going on to the Krig full time and like becoming that main AR too. So like that's kind of why I'm like, I think both of those things heavily contributed to their success, which is why I'm not like willing to commit to Drazah being a top 10 most valuable when there's just so many guys that we could talk about here. So, okay, that's fair. I went back and forth with a handful of guys here. And again, the FaZe guys were probably the guys I had the toughest time
for sure
figuring out where to put them, like the Celliums and Arcides, because it's like they're both. I don't know if you can take either of them out and them be as like anywhere the level of as dominant as FaZe was. Like I know we've had the debate of Arcides and his value versus replacing him with other ARs in the league, but like I just feel like versus other teams, if you took Arcides off that, if you took Cellium off that and replaced him with a league average player, that team is nowhere near a top one of the best teams of all time. Like they're literally they're going to go down as one of the top 3 best years of all time for teams. And so it's like, with that said, I have Cellium at number 10 most valuable, and I'll just go ahead and say Arceus at number 9. Okay. So Cellium and Arceus are both in the top 10 most valuable because I think their level of success as a squad kind of made all 4 of them like unreplaceable, kind of in that sense. Like they were just that dominant, come out and dominate champs too, and win 3 majors on the year, get second in one of them. They only have 7 losses on the season in the regular season. Like they're going to have a top 3 season of all time with them and Complexity, or them, Complexity, and OpTic, kind of as the 3 teams to look at of best all-time seasons. And I mean, I think you go back and look at those teams, you'd probably say that those guys all would have been top 4 most valuable players in those seasons as well. And so that's kind of why I have both OpTic guys there. So Arceus or Cellium, then Arceus on my list. So are they on your list?
They are on my list, but I'm actually flipped. I have Arceus at number 10 and Cellium at 9.
Oh, wow. That's actually crazy.
And then, sorry.
I just feel
I'm
like
the lowest on that. I'm lower. Well, I guess Sam's higher. Interesting.
You're the lowest on Cellium, but
that's shocking.
I mean, in a way they could be, flipped around, but I think Cellium has a certain,
he brings the sweatiness to the team,
he brings a certain je ne sais quoi that's hard to describe.
A certain feel, a certain vibe, a certain
weirdness,
there's a X factor.
There is a certain X factor to Cellium, whereas, and there is to Arceus as well, but I think Cellium even more so. It's so much more unique. So that's why
he finds those sweaty spots. He does those things, and
he
then
does weird stuff.
Right, and he finds the random spots on like Garrison where he's going up and down and on the radar, and that gave them an advantage early in the year. And like he's doing those weird things, which I can totally see brings an insanely valuable aspect to him, to the team. Yeah. And then there's Arceus, obviously, which are the normal narratives for Arceus: the leadership, the communication, the organization for the team, identifying their strengths, really building on those things, and being the good building block for FaZe that they desperately needed, which is why I have Arceus higher. Like Cellium was on this team last year. Yes, they were very, very good. And obviously, you're dropping Major Maniac, you're dropping Priestahh, you're bringing in Arceus, a very, very good player. So like there's those things too. But you bring in Arceus, and now suddenly they're the best team in the CDL, and it's not even close. So that's kind of the tiebreakers for me with the organization and leadership that they desperately needed to make them the best team in the CDL by far. So that's why they're both on my list. And Sam, you haven't been higher. So I imagine it's even more magnified of an argument.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty. I mean, I don't know what more there is to say there.
Yeah. Besides, they were just really freaking good.
They were just really good. Yeah. Obviously, there's a reason why Cellium and Arceus are close and farther below than the other 2, which I'm sure.
Whoa. What if they're not on the list? All right.
I mean, who knows? Yeah. But
that's fair.
I pretty much just mirror everything you said. Yeah, 9. I have Standy.
Interesting. Okay, I have him at number 8. So that works out great.
Standing with me. Why I think there is an argument where people might be like, "Hey, why don't you have Standy higher?" I mean, he came in. Rocker had an amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I felt bad about having him at 7.
Yeah,
or at 8.
Yeah. So here's my reasoning. My reasoning is when he came in, which was March, which would have been stage 3?
Stage 3 or beginning of stage 3, going into stage 3, maybe?
Yeah.
It was somewhere in there.
Exactly. So, stage 3, nothing crazy happened when he came in, right? He came in and they beat OpTic, but then they were really good, but they weren't like a top 3 team. Exactly. So like there was room to, there's room to grow. They had some stuff to figure out. However, very much so, stage 5, obviously, incredible run.
Right. I think we saw major improvement, no pun intended, from Major Maniac, from Priestahh, and from Attach. That kind of all elevated together to elevate with Standy to win that event.
Exactly.
So
and then when you have him in talks of being a Rookie of the Year, now I know they never did it, did they? They never formally announced the Rookie of the Year, which is. Wow, I don't know how you do that.
I know, right? Makes me lose my mind.
When you have someone come in and is able to being in contention, I think you have to, especially when we're looking just at Cold War.
He's undoubtedly on this list for sure.
Exactly. So That would be the only reason why he's not higher, is that it did take him a little bit longer to find that role. And then
I agree.
You did see performance improvements from other members as well. But undoubtedly, Sandy on the map is a menace, and he is a phenomenally individually talented player.
There is an argument though, like, and this is why I felt bad about having him at number 8, was like, if you took Standy off this team and replaced him with a league average player, they could be awful.
Detrimental.
100%.
But like, it's just hard to know exactly. So like,
No,
I could
they
100%. I think a Rocker fan could argue that he's in the top 4.
I mean, he's number 6 on mine.
Okay, that's fair.
And like he was the diamond for that team. He was their glimmer of hope. Their only hope.
Yeah.
So when he came in, the fact that it was great, it was just like amazing. Let's never get rid of Standy before anybody else, because he's the only reason we're competitive anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's fair.
That's why I have Standy at 6.
I know that's what's tough. Is that the problem is there's just so many other great players on this list, and it's
Exactly.
like we'll see
like
if it makes more sense later.
Yeah, and like when you look at like overall, team performances,
there's so many.
I think it makes sense.
Good teams that we haven't talked about yet. So, all right. With that said, Rex, you're the lowest player left. Who's your number 8?
So my number 8. I mean, there's so many, but I'm gonna go with Asim as my number 8.
Oh, really?
I think, I mean, I'm high on the New York Subliners squad and all that.
Homer pick.
But like everybody on that team had a very unique, role that they were fulfilling just within the whole dynamic of the team. So I think Asim plays a big part in that team dynamic. Removing him removes, half of your hype. And your positivity and excitement and energy, which I think that Subliners team, they really thrived off of, that energy that you get while you're playing, what Clay's known for, all that. I think Asim also brings that extra oomph to your momentum. So that's why I have Asim at number 8, because I think he's a momentum bringer.
He was in my honorable mentions, like as a guy, like in those maybe like first 4 out or so. But like, I just felt like there's just other guys on his team that made a bigger impact on the season. And that's kind of why I left him off the list. But that's fair. That's very fair. So I guess I have the lowest one now. So at number 7 for me is one of those guys. It's Hydra at number 7. So I was going back and forth with where I wanted to have Hydra. At first, I thought about not having him in the top 10. And, obviously no spoiler, but I imagine Clay's going to be on our list here at some point. But I just think it's kind of undeniable with how great Hydra was. And like in my eyes, he's a locked and loaded top 10 player on the season. And it's like with that in mind, not to mention when he comes in, they end up coming from the winner's bracket to be in a grand final, everything was there for him. And they were really, really, really good at that point. So when you bring in Hydra and they get to that level of like eliteness right away, when, Asim and Mac and Clay were already on that roster, I think it goes to show how impactful Hydra was. And if you replaced Hydra with the league average SMG, that team is not good. Like, they're bad. So I almost thought about having him higher than Clay, but like, I don't think Hydra could have been Hydra without Clay, which is why Clay is at number 6 for me. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I also have Hydra on my list, but I'm actually, making an audible here. I'm actually going to put Hydra. I'm going to flick Hydra and Standy. So my Hydra is going to be number 6.
Oh.
And my Standy is going to be number 5. Not because I think Hydra's worse than Standy, but because I think Rocker depended more on Standy than the Subliners depended on Hydra.
Yeah, that was a tough debate for me.
So that's why I'm flipping them. So I have Standy at 5, and my Hydra is going to be number 6.
Hydra was number 5 for me.
Fair play. Yeah, that's what's tough. So I mean, because I was right with you there. It was either Hydra or Standy for 7, 8, and I was like, man, I don't know. I ended up giving the tiebreaker to Hydra because New York was a more relevant team on the season, and like they immediately went to a grand final when he got there. So that was kind of the debate for me. So, all right. Well, I had Clay at number 6. So where's Clay on your guys' lists? Probably pretty high.
I mean, I don't know if I should say it now, but I don't have Clay on my list.
Dude, are you what? How?
Oh my spicy. Holy crap.
Yeah.
The hype is real. Oh, I'm hyped now. Sam, Rex, fight. This is time. Throw the gloves on.
Do we want to talk like about it now?
Okay, we're
or
talking
you
Clay
wanna-
now. We're talking Clay
Okay.
now.
Okay. I think Hydra would still be Hydra without Clay.
That's wrong, though. That's just wrong.
It's not though.
You can look at Neptune. You can say Neptune could have been Hydra if Hydra went to Mutineer.
But we don't know that.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know that, but
Hydra
Similar.
was straight up dominant in the AM scene, though.
Mhm.
Both EU and then NA before he
Yeah.
joined.
yeah, we didn't really
I
get a
think
chance to see Neptune so much.
This
but-
is my take. I think Clay was a phenomenal Cold War player.
But he magnified it, though, too. I mean, he had to have. I mean, he helped Neptune or helped Hydra more than most players would have.
I do not doubt that.
Yeah.
However, I'm giving the credit to Hydra. I think
Interesting.
it's
Here's the
And so is your thing is because Hydra wasn't there, then he was, and then they were top 2 team.
here's my thing. I think it takes away from Hydra when we say it's because of Clay. I don't think it's because of Clay. I think Hydra would be where he is, maybe not as fast as he was, but it was all Hydra. It's his talent. Clay obviously
Right.
like helped foster it, help father it.
That's my thing. Is like as a whole, though, I think obviously the argument that Rex would make is that Clay's the glue of the team, that he keeps the team together. Like when Clay left, that team was literal dog water. They were trash.
They were
obviously
kinda
that
dog
was a whole
water.
different thing. And like they abandoned him like last second, and
And they
all
kind of were
these
dog
things.
water when he was on the team too.
That's true. They did
You
lose
know?
like 3 straight matches, then he left.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to say like for sure Clay shouldn't be on this list. I think, maybe I'm just prioritizing certain things but I want to give Hydra.
that's really off the cuff for you, considering how high you had Clay after last season.
I did. Yeah. So I don't know. It could just be the way that I, shaped this list, but I guess I just wanted to give Hydra the credit where credit was due and not just kind of attach him to Clay. I guess
I
Like, are
respect
you just
that.
saying like if you replaced
I respect that.
if you like let like a league average AR, like methods or accuracy on New York versus, replacing a main SMG with Hydra, like a league average SMG, like that's where the difference is.
Yeah. I guess like, I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt the team. I'm saying if Hydra left, it would hurt the team worse.
Right.
Than if,
That's
than if
exactly.
Clay. And so,
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
and then when you
That
go down
makes
this
it
list
spicy.
of, because like when you go down this list of, 6 or 10, obviously like I think those players would also hurt their teams worse, but not saying that Clay wouldn't,
Right. And Clay's an honorable mention for you. I'm sure.
you got
for
it.
sure,
So if
yeah.
we're thinking in terms like who contributed, most to like, the team success, like the absolute whole team success, I think the reason subliners were so good is because of Clayster. Without Clayster, subliners is nothing. They can have Mac, Hydra, Asim, and whoever you want, and they're not going to be as good as they were.
Oh, I don't know about
And
that.
I do. And I think, I watched, and, maybe these are just one-off scrims, but back when, Hydra wasn't like on the team yet, and I think DiamondCon was filling in, but
Yeah.
they had Hydra come in for a few scrims and they were streaming it. Hydra looked lost. Like,
No, for sure. I agree.
I was worried. I was
I
like,
was too.
oh, Hydra's a bust. Like, he's not going to be good at all this year. And then once we get into it, all of a sudden, Clay's
Yeah,
got his
I
hands
do
on him.
think
And all of a
that
sudden, he's
Clay-
in my mind, I saw a whole new player
Yep.
from what I saw in the league versus what I saw in their scrims. Because the scrims, he was bad. And
Yeah.
I was like, he's going to be bad. And I don't know if he should play.
That's why
but
I have
then-
Clay higher than Hydra, because I think Clay had a lot to do with Hydra's development as a player.
I agree. And you could say maybe somebody else would have. But we're talking about the absolute success of the team. Clayster was the catalyst for all of that happening.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Rex, now I have to know where you put him on this list.
So Hydra, I already did Hydra. Hydra is number 6. See, I have 4 more slots left, but I got 5 more people I want to put on.
Oh, no.
So this is kind of like where I'm running into trouble, where like I might have to take out a number, like it's weird.
You might have to shift everybody down.
Yeah, or maybe some phase guys just aren't going to make the list because that's boring. So I'm going to put Clayster at number 4.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. Well, with that said, Sam, now at number 6 for you, who you got?
Yeah. But at number 6, I've got Shotzzy.
Okay. Interesting.
Dude, what is your list?
What do you mean? What's my list?
Hey, okay, Rex does not have Shotzzy on his
I
list.
know
obviously.
I have Shotzzy on my list.
Oh,
but
you do?
He's at number 3. I
Oh
think
my word, that's
Shotzzy,
even spicier.
despite
I feel like I thought that's spicier than me.
how like Shotzzy was
No.
Dallas Empire. Like not to discredit the people on the Dallas Empire, but
in that second half of the year,
Shotzzy,
stage 3,
Dallas
stage 4,
Empire,
stage 5, Shotzzy was unbelievable.
He was carrying. If you take him off that, like we were all talking about how Illey is playing not as great as we want. Crim not playing as great as we want.
Huke benched, Vivid,
Huke benched, Fellows coming in, It's like all these random people. But the whole time, they're maintaining a top 4 spot.
Right.
In the
at
league.
their worst, they were top 8 maybe for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When they brought in Fellow.
And that rests on the shoulders of Shotzzy. And I don't want to discredit those guys. They had a bad season, but I think Shotzzy kept them as high as they were.
I agree, man. I had Shotzzy at number 3.
Yeah, I did take into account. There was times when Shotzzy didn't look good either. The first couple events, I was kind of actually nervous. I was like,
I was too.
Did Shotzzy fall off? Which is kind of
is this not his game?
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, like you said, he very much came into his own and he was carrying his team. However, I feel like that speaks more to volumes of who I have in the top 4.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Rather than Shotzzy not being good, I think he was phenomenal. I just think the 5 players above him had an even higher impact than he did. So
interesting. So I'm interested to know if we have the same 4 players left here, Sam, because Rex only has 2. That blows my mind.
Yeah,
that actually blows my mind. So, okay, I have the lowest player left on the board here. So at number 5, I have Insight at number 5. You brought in Insight, and immediately this team became a top 2 team in a CDL on the season. And it was tough between Insight and Cammy. And so I guess I'll just fire away again here with Cammy at number 4. So I actually ended up going with Cammy higher than Insight because of Cammy's end of the season. His end of the year was,
great,
unbelievable. And
what a monster.
I would have had Insight above Cammy up until maybe Champs. Maybe.
Yeah.
But then at Champs, Cammy was undoubtedly their best player. And he was disgusting. And obviously some of the plays he made were mind-blowing. But it's not to take away from what Insight did. And some of those S&Ds and his clutches inside of Search and Destroy at Champs or in stage 5 were crazy. And both of those guys had an insane impact on that team. You like I said, you bring in Insight, the team's a top 2 immediately. And then Cammy kind of rose like a phoenix, becoming an elite player in a CDL and undoubtedly a top 4 player in a CDL in that second half of the year.
Yeah. So I've got Cammy at 4 and Insight at 2.
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Maybe I put too much on Insight. I put too much of Toronto's success on Insight, but I feel like it was just such an apparent, they drop methods. You could call a league average player maybe, and then you bring in Insight,
for sure. A very respectable player.
Yeah, and there was just this whole new team. Truly, they all fit together. Insight showed how dominant of an AR and how much presence and how much meaning an AR can have.
No, for sure.
Again, RC's is weird here because RC's is going up against his other 3 teammates, which is hard to
Yeah, and then it's
gauge.
who really brings the value.
Exactly.
And they were all there since the beginning of the year and they dominated since the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's it's
this
tough.
is where the list got hard because I know we had the argument about Insight versus RC's and they're who's better, but I think it's kind of. It was harder to gauge RC's again because of his 3 teammates, but then with
there's a difference
Insight,
between skill and value.
Exactly.
That's there's a big difference. And I still think that RC's and Insight are very, very comparable skill wise.
Yeah.
But and I think RC's would translate to more teams than Insight would. But
I think so too.
When it comes to value, traded for the Toronto Ultra, it's hard to get better than Insight or Cammy.
Yeah.
It was everything. So then, and then of course Cammy.
Yeah, Rex, I feel like you got to shift some guys down here.
I'm thinking about it. I have Cammy at number 2.
Oh, wow.
I do want to put Insight in here somewhere. He just didn't, wasn't the first person that came to my main.
I mean, that means you don't have a BZ or Simp.
What in the world, bro?
Well, I can tell you what I'm doing at number 1.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
But Insight deserves to be on this list. I might take a seam out for Insight. Because I think Insight in the beginning had a huge impact. I think as time went on,
that shifted to Cammy.
It shifted to Cammy 100%. I think Cammy has always been sort of that guy for the team.
Yeah, he brings the passion, that's for sure.
Insight helped, smooth that out. I need halfway through his tenure, maybe I'm thinking like you could change Inside Out for somebody else of equal skill level and have something similar happening.
I don't know how you don't have
One of the two. That blows my mind.
So I mean, Inside definitely deserves to be on my
Sam,
list.
who do you have
but
at number 3?
He didn't make it.
3 I have a BZ.
Yeah.
Again, 1, 2, and 3, or I guess really 2 and 3, close. I mean, obviously Simp is number 1 for me.
Yep. Simp is number 1 for me as well.
It's just like the lowest hanging fruit, obviously, but you cannot deny Simp and Abizi as a duo are the most valuable duo, and then. Really, like you
Rex
take one
is cheating. He is cheating.
What? No, you can't. You can't do that.
Here's the thing.
You
You
can't
ever
do
think
that.
of a? Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
No,
When you talk Simp and
Veto.
Abizi,
You can't do
when
that.
you talk Simp and Abizi, they're a package deal. Like they
No,
are
no.
one unit at this point
No.
in time. Anytime you say the word Simp, the word Abizi follows along. Anytime you say Abizi, the word Simp follows it. They are together 100%. The Terrors are my number 1. You take that off that FaZe team. FaZe is completely changed. Put the Terrors on any other team.
Hilarious.
The Terrors
veto
take
this.
over and make that team the best team in the league.
You need to make you need to make a decision. You
I don't
can't
think
do
I
the
did
Terrors.
because it's the Terrors. That's what makes them so great. I mean, we could talk about individual talent. Yes, we can say Simp is like this great player, and yes, he could go to another team and be amazing.
And I can see your point. It's like there's no
How
point in
much
debating who's
more
more valuable
amazing?
because they're always going to team together.
Yeah, and how much more amazing is Simp going to be on a team that he can carry? A lot. But Abizi would do the same. But when they're together, that's where the real magic
Right.
is.
Until
That's
one
what
of
makes your
them
championship
DMs the other's
team.
girlfriend during a match, and then they break up. Okay, it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they do break up,
Amen.
I'm gonna be pissed because Rex had the Terrors, and
I really don't think they'll ever break up.
I mean, it's going to be a while, at least a year. I mean, that's
they're
obvious.
going to have to get bad at some point, but like they're
Right.
still number 1. They've been around since Black Ops 4 as the number 1 duo.
I don't like this. This is not fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a cop-out answer, but whatever. I'll allow it for now. So I agree with you. I had a BZ and Simp at 1 and 2. I mean, I could see the argument for Inside. I'm interested that you had Inside above a BZ, yet Simp above Inside. That's a pretty interesting kind of pattern there, Sam.
Yeah. I guess I was kind of thinking like when you consider like Simp and Insight are like your 2 catalysts
For each team, you wanted to kind of
for
both
each
teams to be
team.
represented at the top.
So like that was kind of my like mindset going
That's
into
fair.
it.
And we're
However, I
splitting
could-
hairs.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2 and 3 for me are just like close. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I agree. I mean, they do so much around the map for FaZe. They're literally irreplaceable. I mean, like they're dominant. They slay. They play patiently. They do it all across all 3 game modes. Them 2 alone could do it all across all 3 game modes, let alone Celium and Control or RCDs in all 3 as well. So I agree. It's just no one to beat. I don't love that I don't have I have Cammy and Insight both top 5, but I have Shotzzy above them. So I don't have a Toronto person in the top 3, which doesn't feel totally right. But I agree. I feel like Standys might be a little bit low on my list too at number 8, which I don't love. So consensus real quick. Are you guys good with Simp and Abizi 1 and 2? Just kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, Rex, are you?
yeah,
I think the
Rex.
Terrors number 1. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then Shotzzy or Insight at number
Shotzzy.
3.
Shotzzy.
Really?
But Sam has Shotzzy at 6.
We have Shotzzy at 3 though.
You don't have Insight on your list.
I don't even have Inside on my list.
Bro, that is such
Okay, that's
Actually,
egregious.
that's
That is-
egregious.
That's like a sin.
Can we like that
Well,
is
who are you
that is
replacing? Okay. Let's look at my
objectively a
list.
sin.
Let's look at my list. Who are you guys changing out for Inside?
Hey, well, I mean, we'd have ASIM not on the list.
Yeah. Take Asim out of there.
Well, first of all, there's no way Insight should be below number 6.
He should be above Facer.
So I will put Inside on my list for ASIM because I was already considering it, but I'm not changing the number.
How are you gonna?
I think he was crucial. I think he was crucial. I think he became less crucial as time went on.
like barely. I feel like you think he had this like huge drop off. Like he was still the same dominant player. Cammy just upgraded too.
I think
Right.
Kleenex also played really well. Kleenex
Well,
was an
for
honorable
sure.
mention
Of
for me.
course.
Oh, 100%. All of the
I
Toronto
mean-
guys are honorable mentions. So
I
let's
just feel
get
like-
our consensus real quick here.
I
We
feel
can
like
just we
this
can
is
iron
like-
it out.
A bloody sin.
I agree. It's a bloody sin. So based off our rankings, how it currently is, I think we have to go Shotzzy at 3 because of our rankings.
Yes.
And then Cammy, then Insight.
Oh,
But I hate that.
that
I
is
hate
so
it too.
bad, dude.
It is real bad.
And then
That's
I think
on you, Rex.
That's
what are
on
you talking
you,
about?
Rex.
This is on
And
you.
then Sam not having Clay is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, Sam, you don't even have Clay.
Bro,
Like,
bro,
you're
me-
talking
no,
about
no, no, no.
Insight?
Me
At least
not
I
having
made
Clay,
the change. At least I
No,
learned.
Hydra.
Me not having Clay is so less egregious than you having Insight.
That's
Well,
not even true.
That's
though.
true.
No,
That's
no,
not.
It is so true.
It's not.
That's
though.
true.
The Insight became
But although
more
he
and
did
more
edit it, now he has
replaceable
Insight at number 8. So at
as
least
time went on. I think
at least he
initially
is on the
Insight was
list.
great, but as time went on, he was replaceable.
yeah. Okay.
Bance is a big part of the team dynamic. Cammy's the passion behind it. Kleenex is like your cool, quiet guy who just like is like your karma almost. And then Insight kind of just found a place.
Wait, Sam, you don't have Oh no, you do. Wait, who
I
are,
do have
who are we missing on
8.
the list?
The consensus doesn't have Draza.
Yeah, but like, are we not
They
going to put
should.
Celium then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you need to have Cilium.
Yeah, I agree. So
I think we should put the Terrors at the top.
No,
and then
Well,
go
there's our
down.
consensus. I'll move it so the YouTube folk can see it. There's our
Let's move
consensus
mine.
right there. Simpabeezy, Shotzzy. We really didn't kind of go over our full-on rankings, but Simpabeezy, Shotzzy, Cammy, Insight, Hydra, Clay, Standy, Arcity, Celium as our top 10 most valuable players consensus, which wasn't much consensus.
No,
There wasn't a
I
lot of
hate this.
consensus going on there.
I hate this. Okay, Rex screwed it up by having 2 people at number 1.
Here's the
and
thing.
he didn't even have
Here's the
Insight
thing.
on his list.
I know,
Clay,
he cheated and still didn't have Insight on the list
because
originally.
what makes Simpabeezy
No, I get
is
the
that they're
argument.
together. That's what makes them so great.
The terror of their duo is what makes them valuable.
Though Simp, kind of a legend, some of the stuff he does. Unprecedented
like-
things that he does on the map.
Okay, I know we're like at 2 hours now, so I'm just gonna stop. But I can literally debate this forever.
Well,
'cause
obviously, drop your comments down below, folks. We want to hear what you guys have to say about some of this. Who's faded? Who's on the papaya? You know?
Josh.
from the Pine Park.
Wow.
Josh.
I have my dude, mine is fire list. That's this facts list right
Josh,
there.
I'm just happy you had Clay.
Jeez. Yeah.
I really didn't think you would. I was like, you're gonna go hype beast mode. I thought for
No,
sure
no, no,
Priestahh
no.
was ending up on this list. I was like, oh, no.
Priestahh.
What?
What?
I don't know.
I don't
You
know
have a
about
thing
I don't
for
know about
Priestahh.
that, man. Oh, I have a thing for Priestahh. But
Wow.
well, there you go, boys. All right, let's get to intelligent and irrelevant because we're already pushing 2 hours. But this has been a spicy one. I told you to be spicy. Let's hit intelligent and irrelevant. Let's go.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Intelligent and irrelevant. It's time.
Oh, I thought that the drop was still going. That's embarrassing.
Oh no.
It's
all good.
intelligent versus irrelevant.
Intelligente.
Which of these players is most likely to get signed by a CDL team?
It's a fun one.
X, Mohawk, Parasite, Waskin.
So are we talking as a player here? Because I mean, Parasite has the X factor going for him of coach / other things.
I mean, it is kind of an open because it's which of these players is most likely to get signed by a CDL team.
Yeah, it is open to interpretation.
It is.
I think the people probably said Parasite.
Here's the thing. The people should pick Parasite. I don't think the orgs will actually pick Parasite because they never do. But I think they should.
Interesting. Okay, so what would your pick be? Who do you think is most likely? Mohawk?
What were the options again? Mohawk, Parasite.
X, Mohawk,
X.
Parasite, and Waskin.
Oh,
Could
I
Watson
mean,
get signed by Paris?
No, I think Watson's a little out of it. I would probably guess Mohawk based on the trend of things.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll say Parasite is going to get picked by the people, but I would probably say Mohawk.
I could also, however, X with BBG.
The
if you've been
BBG team
yeah.
for like
Yeah.
Paris or for NRG's
Yeah,
swap
for those
spot.
paying attention to the AM, the BBG squad has been very consistent and got her.
Well,
X.
definitely.
They got better at the beginning, not so hot in Cold
Yeah.
War, and then they got to Elite Series and they became really, really good.
But I will agree, Parasite has got to be the fan favorite. So
Yeah,
my vote is going to Weskins because I don't think he was the top 3.
I think it's going to be a pretty close poll.
Holy cow! 34.9% with the lead is Mohawk.
Oh, wow. It is a close poll.
Yeah. 26% say Parasite.
Wow.
Nice.
23.8 GodderX, and then 15% Weskin.
Well, that was
And
a really close poll.
I think that's intelligent. That's pretty much exactly what I'm thinking in my head.
That was really intelligent.
That was actually really cool. Yeah. So that was 280 votes too. So not too bad.
Nice, dude. That's dope.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a sick one.
Yeah. So here we got some comments here from the one and only Gersh. Shout out Gersh.
Oh, shout out Gersh. Let's go.
Parasite is the perfect AR, SMG, Flex, IGL, coach, and analyst package all in
Oh,
one.
wow. He is all in.
Mad facts.
Yeah.
Mad facts.
You got to think if you're a new team in the league or one looking for a fresh start, that's some of the most solid footing you can acquire for a strong start. I mean, that's
100%.
absolutely. Typical OC fanboy. This is a great poll. Well, thank you.
Let's go.
I can see every one of these players getting picked up or none of them.
Word.
That's
fair.
Well, that means it's a good poll.
Yeah. I probably lean towards Mohawk just because picking up new talent is the thing right now in Call of Duty.
Read my mind.
Nice. Ryan Fatty 7. This is the best poll yet. Wow.
Lots of love out here.
If Scraps is on a roster, so is Weskins. I believe Scraps will be on a roster, and I think his brother joins him.
Dang, let's go, baby. We're getting comments for everybody.
Wow, my heart is warm.
Oh, I see
today.
one from Evo Hordes, and we have one for GodderX. I think that GodderX has proven that he can still compete with the best of the best due to his success with BBG. He's shown that his success from the first half of Modern Warfare wasn't a fluke.
Man, that's
Wow.
beautiful. All the players got a shout out.
Things you love to see, boys.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
All of them
go.
deserve to be on teams.
What a
Beautiful.
great ending to a horrible podcast.
Well, I mean, that's it, boys. Drop your comments down below. Who's the most valuable player in the CDL? And why is Insight in the top 4? Love to hear your comments down below. And obviously, it's always a pleasure. So drop a comment down on YouTube. Drop a review on Apple Podcasts if you guys enjoyed it. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. SalvationsElite. To my
Yeah, there you
right is Bash _ Bo3 Sam. And to our farthest right per usual is Rex Shady Nero. And guys, we will see ya next time.
Oh my word.